India's youth cockroach protests rattle Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Over to you.
So, just broadly, and the details I don't know intimately, there was a leak in India of about the examinations affecting 2 million students, with implications of cheating and favoritism and disadvantage clearly for those who didn't benefit from the leak. And there were demonstrations against this. The Minister of Education, I think it was, named Pradhan, characterized the demonstrators as cockroaches, which did not go over well.
No, he didn't. That's a correction. It was the Chief Justice of India, Surikant, if I'm getting his name correct. He called the youth cockroaches. So the minister didn't. We should be fair to the minister. Dharmendra Pradhan did not disparage. It was the Chief Justice of India who did so.
Okay. So there are demonstrations against this apparent corruption, what quite clearly seems to have been the case, which were then derided, the demonstrations, by the authorities, which then, of course, enhanced the anger and the demonstrations. And so this has become a national level political crisis for the Modi government, leading some even to think, was this the beginning of the end or so on? My sense is that is probably taking the assessment a bit too far. But it's also expanded the demonstrations into demands for more transparency of the government, greater democracy. It is not just, and I'm not minimizing the significance, it is not just an issue of students and exams any longer. So tell us, Atul, how significant is this for the Modi government? How substantial is it as a threat to and concern for Indian democracy?
So let's break down why these protests happen. So, and full disclosure, the National Testing Authority is headed by Abhishek Singh, and I know Abhishek forever. I was in Nagaland, he was in Nagaland. So I've been in touch with him over the years. So I do know the key personnel involved, quite literally personally, over decades, not years. So let's take a step back. Number one, leaks of papers have been going on for a while. They've been going on for decades, but they have really taken off over the last 10 years. And the key point to make here is that the leaks set off protests because public discontent had been brewing for a while. So let's begin with what a very senior IAS officer confided. IAS is Indian Administrative Service, the heaven-born elite that runs everything in India. They control everything, including the National Testing Authority, even though they have no experience of running exams. If you compare the UK, in the UK, it is someone who's an educationist. It's someone who spent his lifetime in the world of education assessing students, who runs exams, whether it is the A-levels or pretty much any other. In India, the National Testing Authority is headed by my dear friend Abhishek Singh, who was running the AI summit till yesterday, and he was in the Time 100 most influential people in AI. He has no experience of ever conducting an exam, and I don't think he will mind my saying so. But that is the nature of India. So the key thing is that tests have leaked, particularly in greater frequency since the Narendra Modi government came to power. Why? Because number one, if you work in the National Testing Agency, it's undermanned. And we'll do a longer piece on this because we are limited by time. It's undermanned, it uses contractors, it's structurally poorly designed. An IS officer is plonked on top with no expertise in ever conducting an exam. And so the exams leak, and if they start leaking regularly, then the fairness of exams is in question. And in India, exams have been sacrosanct. They are the one way of ensuring social mobility in a country with few university spots and few jobs, and especially few good jobs. So the senior IS officer confided in me and said that, number one, we've had discontent building for a while because the economy is dead and has been dead for a while. The demonetization decision destroyed small businesses, which meant that jobs died by the thousands. So if you are an online company, then you're doing well. But if you were running a small industry in Muzaffarnagar, UP, God help you. Second, the goods and sales tax came in the middle of the financial year. That destroyed further small businesses. We've covered all of this before in our podcast on the Indian economy, which is part of the dialectic. Third, more recently, public discontent, and I can say that this discontent, I can see it even in my own family because I'm from Uttar Pradesh. I am a Hindi speaker. A number of my family members have been in politics, are still in politics. The third thing that has really triggered discontent is the Ram Janmabhoomi corruption scandal. What does this mean? Creating a new temple for Lord Ram after demolishing a mosque was a civilizational project for the Hindu right. Basically, the idea was that we've been colonized by one invader after another. Our temples have been smashed. We will create a Vatican-like temple. There'll be a world-class university. There may be a world-class hospital, whatever. The point was that this was meant to be a civilizational project. It turns out that first, there was a scam when it came to land. Second, there was massive over-invoicing in construction. And third, they were just stealing the cash that devotees put in the temple. So this really shook up people, and my friend said, well, they cheated faith, and there are consequences to cheating faith. And even in my own family, there's this searing rage that how could you steal from the temple? I mean, not that they are religious, but it's like this is, you basically cheated on the very thing you promised. So that discontent was brewing already. Number four, what happened is that they also did the E20, which is because of the, believe it or not, the US-Israel-Iran war has created a massive crisis in India. India is not getting enough gas, enough oil. So they said, okay, 20% of all the fuel you use has to be ethanol. Now, this caused engine problems. This caused mileage to go down, and this hurt millions and millions. So if we look at the discontent that was brewing, and then the story of exams leaking one after the other, and there it is important to understand two things. Demand to do well in exams is really high. That is why you have a private coaching industry. And this private coaching industry spends more money now, according to some estimates, than the budget, the entire education budget of the country, which is mind-boggling. So let's say you're a parent, you have a child, and the child wants to get into IIT. You pack this child off to Kota. In Kota, this child goes to a private coaching institution, and the coaching institution teaches this child to crack the competitive exam. By law, this child is supposed to go to school, but he doesn't. There's a dummy school in which registers fake attendance. And if the coaching institute, which is earning millions of dollars, this is a multi-billion-dollar industry, manages to bribe a relatively poorly paid official in the National Testing Authority, then that coaching will get more people through and will do more business. So the incentives are misaligned. My father thinks that coaching institutions have led to a culture of deceit, dishonesty, immorality,
If I could jump in
cheating. Yeah.
for a moment.
Yeah.
One of our, or a couple of our listeners point out that in their personal experience, this is no surprise, I think, to anybody, from a long time ago, they were aware of similar kinds of cheating and leaks and corruption, let's call it that. So what makes this different this time? Is it this is the spark coming on top of a dry sack of hay of discontent? Why
It
is it?
was, yeah, it was a
Why has
spark
it
on a
brought
dry
people to the
sack of
street?
hay. Absolutely. It was a spark on the dry sack of hay. Absolutely. And the coaching industry has grown. And, it's interesting. Shiju Verghese is talking about CJP. And Shiju, with due respect, you don't even speak Hindi. So you have not even been able to understand what the protesters are saying. And so I'm not going to take you very seriously. And the other important thing is, forget about unattributed sources. There are obviously loads of social media abusive videos of young women shouting foul abuse against the prime minister, which has upset a lot of people, and including my mother, who says, "My God, this is terrible language, and it's foul language," which I won't repeat. And there absolutely, number one, there absolutely was this simmering discontent. Now, the argument that Shiju Verghese is making is there were vested interests. Of course, there are always vested interests. Okay. So, two things, right? He's talking about this Indian paranoia. Oh, Nepal blew up, Bangladesh blew up. There is regime change. The CIA is plotting this. Shiju, you can go ahead and say that. It's all Glenn plotting in his bunker how to get rid of Narendra Modi. I hear that and I laugh.
Are
It
you
is
saying
Indian
that
paranoia.
my ignorance is feigned?
So the important thing here is that initially, what I hear from rumors is there are wheels and within wheels, and who knows what's true, entirely true. But what is certainly the case is the government underestimated the Cockroach Janata Party. Number two, there was a massive intelligence failure. They did not estimate this to go out of hand. It is certainly true that Abhijit Deepke, the chap who started the protest, was in Boston, and Cockroach Janata Party was initially a political satire, but the discontent was real. The Lieutenant Governor was ambassador to the US, Taranjit Singh Sandhu. He's known to be a narcissist who was only interested in self-promotion. And shall we say he's fond of the good things in life? And his personal integrity is certainly in amongst many circles. The the commissioner of police was also in Washington, D.C. He was in Intelligence Bureau for the last 20 years, and I know him as well. Personally, I know him. I've met him. And he had no experience of policing for over 20 years. He was put in charge of Delhi police because, part one hears, because of the lieutenant governor, the former ambassador, Taranjit Singh Sandhu, because, of course, they go back to Washington. And he took charge at a time when the protests were getting out of hand. The earlier commissioner of police had advised the government, that is what I hear from my sources, not to arrest an activist from Ladakh who was on a hunger strike. But of course, they went ahead, arrested, and then everything blew up. So there was fundamental incompetence at the top, from the lieutenant governor responsible for law and order, from the Delhi police commissioner who had no experience of policing, just brought in from Intelligence Bureau. But those are micro matters, they don't matter. What really matters is that, yes, a lot of the people involved in the protests were involved with the Aam Aadmi Party, which began as an anti-corruption movement in 2014, but has lost credibility since. What is also true is that certain elements were linked with the Samajwadi Party. Okay? And they were certainly, and the main opposition got involved. And the main opposition, which is what the government didn't expect, Rahul Gandhi showed up in front of the Prime Minister's house and was arrested. And that, of course, led to even more upsurge of public opinion. What is coming out is that police has, in Bihar, there was an image of a policeman firing an AK-47. Some did use pellet guns, that's called video. They used sticks with nails in them. So the violence was disproportionate. And basically, what I've been told is the feeling was that if we beat them up, these kids have only been in coaching, they will just, and once they run away, this protest will die down. So initially, the government ignored the protests, and then there was disproportionate force. Now, the reason why this protest is important is because this government literally is arrogant. This government has no feedback loop. You cannot talk to anybody at the top. And this is an open secret. You can go and talk to BJP members of legislative assemblies. You can go and talk to BJP members of parliament. They will say the same. On the record, Murli Manohar Joshi, who was education minister and one of the builders of the BJP in the 1990s, said that he was sad because of the violence against the students. And Murli Manohar Joshi is another UP leader. He was a professor at Allahabad University. And so even within the BJP, they're on public record, if people do their research, there is disapproval of the way this protest was handled, even though they talk about vested interests that Shiju Varghese talks about. But they certainly do not approve of the government. Now, in a nutshell, what has happened is Dharmendra Pradhan did resign. And this is after Rajnath Singh, the defense minister, said, "Is sarkar mein istife nahi hote," that this government does not do resignations. So this is a massive egg on the face of the government. This is a massive about turn. This is a first. And there was a real fear of protests getting out of hand. And the protests are important politically because for the first time, in some ways, the urban Hindu middle class is affected. The urban Hindu middle class is the bedrock of BJP support, which supported BJP through the years of opposition. And the only thing that this class cares about is examinations. That's the only avenue of social progress. And so if the examinations suspect, with the institutions failing, with the feeling that everything is for sale, whether it is a Supreme Court Chief Justice or the school leaving exam, there is a real shaking of the faith in the Indian Republic itself and the institutions of the Republic. This is much more beyond Narendra Modi. The important thing about these protests is that there's no constructive agenda. They don't have any idea except the resignation of the education minister. They do not have ideas about the reform of the National Testing Authority. They do not have ideas as to how to contain, as my father says, the coaching industry, because you have to contain it because you cannot have one multi-billion-dollar industry and a poorly paid state regulator run by an IS officer with no idea of examinations. And expect things to go awry. And so there's an element of mob rule. It is a bit like the French Revolution with emotion on the streets. But there is no constructive agenda of change on the part of the protesters, at least not yet. A lot of the leaders are ex-Aam Aadmi Party people, so there is a partisan divide in India. That is certainly true. So Shiju is right about yes, there is a partisan divide. But at the end of the day, the reality is that the institutions have failed. And Shiju Sangeeta is pointing out policemen were also beaten up and lynched. That is true. Some were, including an IPS officer. He came on a night patrol and he was beaten. Apparently, he had concussion. So that is true. So that is absolutely true that there was some violence on the side of the mob. But the discontent...
we don't want to take our listeners too far beyond, but So my last question would be, have we seen enough occur in this issue to conclude that, okay, this is a sign of political dissatisfaction, certainly among some, and that it has substantive implications and consequences going forward for the government?
I think this is the beginning of the end of the Hindu political project for now. It may reincarnate itself and come back. But let's assume you get India is a very young country. Millions of young people become eligible to vote every year. A number of BJP leaders are scared, and they said, "Ab bhai kuch saal vipaksh mein baithna hoga," meaning we'll have to sit a few years in the opposition now, because the reality is with the loss of faith of the Hindu middle class, the Ram Janmabhoomi scandal and then the exam scandal, it is highly unlikely that the BJP, which is already in a coalition government, is going to win a majority in the 543 seats. But the election is far away, and the economic crisis will intensify. The government will become more unpopular. Revolutions depend on the price of price of bread, as we've said so. So we will see, and the over-centralization, and this is the important thing that we should point out, that everywhere you go, you have the photograph, and you've been to India, of Modi everywhere. You go to IIT, there's Modi's photograph for G20. You take a train, there's Modi's photograph. Modi has run a semi-emergency in India. If he doesn't like you, there's an income tax raid, there's an enforcement directorate raid, there is some legal trouble, and you're in court for 20 years. So it is certainly semi-authoritarian. It isn't quite like Russia, but as I call it again and again, it is vegetarian Stalinism. And that sort of command and control and over-centralization means that, yes, you can take credit for everything, but when things go wrong, you have to take blame too. And that over-centralization of the party and government is failing. There is no feedback loop. Too many chief ministers are lackeys. And so as people turn against the government, support for Modi will slip away. Eventually, a new leader will emerge. There might be civil war within the BJP. There'll be conflict between the BJP and other political parties. Expect more chaos. Sadly, this movement is not a movement with coherent ideas. This is very much like Occupy Wall Street, in the sense that, yes, they do not like the government, they do not like exam leaks, but it is reactive, it is emotional, it is certainly the frenzy of a mob. So this movement may die, but something else will come up. There'll be protests on the streets, and expect a more fractious time ahead. And eventually, of course, expect 100% a coalition government of the opposition. The BJP will not win.
Okay. You heard it here first.
Excellent. On that note, we will see you next month. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Join the conversation at Fair Observer and subscribe to our YouTube channel.